Hi, it's Dave and Chantel again, and we are here to talk to you about the Renaissance. This PowerPoint is mostly going to focus on the Italian Renaissance,
Correct.
right? I'll be showing you some other works about the more northern Renaissance, but there really were two Renaissances, one northern and one more southern, and the southern was based in Italy, so that's what we're going to be looking at a lot of today.
And part of what made the Southern Renaissance possible is the ending of the plague and increased trade. And
Italy was on the trade route to the Near East and the Far East,
Correct.
and also Italy made a lot of money off the Crusades because people used them as sort of a launching point on the Crusades, so they got very, very wealthy.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's the seat of the Holy Roman Empire, the Roman Church.
No, Holy Roman Empire.
Holy Roman Empire was passed, but
Right.
it's still Rome stayed
Right,
flush.
right.
Financially.
Rome had lots of money, and it was the headquarters of the church, and that brought a lot of money in.
So this is the doors at a baptistry in Florence, Italy. This is a work done by Ghiberti. It's a tour de force in terms of the bas-relief, which we saw in Greece and Rome, but you have to remember for many hundreds of years we have gone away from those art forms, and so we don't have that skill being passed from master to apprentice.
So bas-relief means that these are kind of three-dimensional, right? They're like
Correct.
They're like half carved.
And we have some close-ups in the next
Okay.
slide here.
Ah, there we go.
So that's, and you can see that the figure isn't separated from the background, it's still attached, but it's still got a three-dimensional quality to it.
And this wasn't carved, this is bronze.
This is bronze.
So this was cast, probably using lost wax?
Yes, so he
Okay.
carved the initial, then the bronze was cast into that figure, yeah.
All right.
And I think that we've got another one. So
So-
these are from the door panels.
Right, each of the individual panels.
Yes.
Right.
This is a cathedral, and the you can see that we've got like some qualities that are picking up some of the things we see in the High Renaissance. In the High Middle Ages. This is a pretty important piece because this dome for a long time was the tallest dome in the world.
Where is this?
This is in Florence. It's Florence Cathedral. And Brunelleschi was the artist who created this dome. And it's actually a dome surrounded by another dome. And I believe I have some architectural detailing there.
Whoops. Oh, hold on. There we go.
There we go. So you can see a cross section of this dome. In order to get the true height, we've got a dome, and that's inside. There's actually kind of a staircase inside around the dome, so you can get up to the lantern at the top.
We still don't know exactly how he did this.
No,
It's a mystery.
it is.
He was an individual genius, and how this thing was we could not do this today with the materials and tools at hand.
No, 'cause
nobody could do this.
They didn't have cranes. They had to build their own scaffolding in order to reach these heights. It's really quite impressive at how it's built. And from what I understand, you can still visit, and with special permission, you can go up inside the dome.
So you can crawl in between the two layers of the dome.
Yeah.
The exterior skin and the interior skin.
Yep.
Wow.
This is just a quick example. This is one of the facades of that cathedral. And you can see that we're really picking back up Greek and Roman influences, and the pediment and the sort of pilaster style columns. And yeah, we're celebrating that heritage again.
Contrapposto!
Contrapposto. This is Donatello's David.
There's one Mutant Ninja Turtle.
One Mutant Ninja Turtle down. This was done in about 1432, and yes, you can see The contrapposto figuring again.
That means he's got his weight on this hip. It's like Critios Boy. Remember Critios Boy in Greece? And we said we wouldn't see this again for a long time. Well, here it is. It gives a more natural effect. He's got his weight on one hip, and he's got the less weight here, and his hips are sort of at an angle. It gives him a more natural look.
And again, we saw things like this in Greek and Roman sculpture, but we've lost those skills, and so we're regaining them. Also, for a long time, we haven't been able to celebrate the human form and the human anatomy. And in the Renaissance, we start to embrace the science a little bit more and try and figure out how the human figure moves and forms. And so with that contrapposto, you also see that the shoulders are at an opposing angle to the hips, because that's what we do to maintain balance. This one is another important figure. We've got a lot of these equestrian statues in the Renaissance. This one is by Verrocchio. It's an equestrian statue from about 1481. Trying to figure out how to get that mass of the horse body and the figure balanced on 4 hooves. And then throughout the Renaissance, we start playing with, okay, can I lift 1 foot? In this one, you see 1 foot is lifted, but he's touching a rock. So we still have a little bit of support. But then we keep picking up more and more, and Da Vinci later tried to figure out how to do a horse with just 2 feet. It's something that we're trying to understand how to do.
And the artists are competing with each other to outdo each other in terms of what can be done.
And how to try and figure out the physics of how to make this work. This is an example of Botticelli's work. This is Botticelli's Birth of Venus in 1482. Botticelli played with a lot of lighter themes, softening, but we're also really embracing an understanding of highlight and shadow and how to capture folds of fabric, dimensionality in art. Remember, for a long time, we've only been having flat figures, and now we're trying to understand, how do we perceive distance? How do we perceive shapes? And how can we capture that in a 2-dimensional level? And
also human anatomy.
And human anatomy.
How does the body work, and how is that represented in how it looks?
Correct. And with that, we move into Leonardo da Vinci. These are some of his sketchbooks. Probably around 1500 to 1510 are when we see most of his sketchbooks. But he did many, many, many sketchbooks trying to understand human anatomy and understand how the body forms. Some of the artists during this time illegally obtained human cadavers, dead bodies, so they could study them and understand what's inside.
And a lot of this is a study of how the muscles attach and thinking about the structure that's underneath the skin.
He also, a lot of the artists at this time, we call them Renaissance men because they were painters and sculptors, but they were also engineers and scientists. And in this, Da Vinci's trying to understand how birds' wings work. And in that, also trying to understand if people could fly. So he created several inventions. Another study of a figure, and his famous Vitruvian Man, which is understanding the proportions of the human body and how they relate to one another, that our height is the same as our arm span, that we are, as you lay out the body, it makes circles and squares, and it's perfection as the Greeks and Romans were looking for correct proportions. Here's a picture of Da Vinci's winged flying machine. He's trying to figure out how to make wings, and he tried on some of these. We don't have any examples of ones he has built, but several people have built things from his sketchbooks. More of his sketchbooks. They're just pretty fascinating to me.
And he was also an engineer. He built practical things.
He did.
Water wheels and things like that. He didn't. He had to do everything to make a living.
Right.
For one thing, and he knew how to build stuff.
And in fact, during there were some wars with neighboring city-states, and a few times Da Vinci was called in to stop his artwork so that he could build cannons and build war machinery. And in fact, a few of his sculptures were melted down to become cannons. The famous Mona Lisa. That one is from about 1503. A well-known piece. It's beautiful use of highlight and shadow, capturing textures. He also figured out that as we see things, the object in the foreground tends to be in focus, whereas that in the background gets hazier as we go back. And that's a technique and a concept that we call sfumato, which is like smokiness. That things appear more smoky in the distance.
Her hands.
Her hands are exquisite. This is Lady with an Ermine, and it's from, I think, about 1489. So this
Da Vinci
one
again.
predates the Mona Lisa. Again, really capturing the highlights and shadows in order to convey spatial relationships, three-dimensionality. And in the next slide, we kind of take apart some of the symbolism in this one.
But the ability to paint the hair underneath this fine mesh cap that she's wearing too.
So it's kind of an interesting look at this, that we're looking at a lot of the symbols, that the ermine was symbolic, that that she's caressing. We see a lot of this picking up the symbols that were used in the Middle Ages being picked up again in the Renaissance to kind of convey additional messages. And so this portrait was pretty complex, and the choice of the jewels to use and things like that. The Last Supper. The Last Supper is from 1492. It was painted on a wall using a technique where you put plaster on a surface and then you apply paint while it's there. And Leonardo he liked experimentation. He liked trying new things. The artists at this time, remember, they're mixing their own paints, and he was trying out some new techniques.
They're not just mixing; they're making.
Making their paints from scratch, and making mixing the plasters and things like that. And so Da Vinci tended to have a very full plate, and people were like, when's my work going to get done? When's my work going to get done? So he kind of rushed on The Last Supper, and he tried some new techniques, and he wasn't really thinking about it in terms of this should last forever, because it was a one-off. You paid me to do this painting, so I'm doing this painting, and I'll finish it and go about my business. And so we've had some problems with The Last Supper. In fact, it was almost completely lost.
No, it is lost.
It is lost.
It is lost. What we see is several generations of people doing their idea of how to restore. So, I mean, probably the relationships between the figures are correct.
Right.
And the relationship between the ceiling and the windows and the draftsmanship and everything are correct, but there is not anything left of what Da Vinci actually painted.
Because it just
it's
crumbled.
gone.
Yeah. This is Raphael, another
Ding! Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Right, so we had Leonardo da Vinci, and now we have Raphael. This is his School of Athens from 1509. A wonderful piece showing perspective, one-point perspective of things going back in space. A wonderful depiction of architecture and the philosophical greats in time. And
And we will pick this up in the next video. So thank you very much. See you in the next video.